Hi, I'm back with a tutorial, and this time I'm going to show you one of my most requested tutorials ever and that's how I use Procreate to create repeat pattern tiles. So essentially a tile like this one, my hummingbird and hibiscus pattern, how you create that using Procreate, a tile that can be repeated as many times as you want to fill any surface area. And I love creating patterns. I just think it's so fun. So I thought I'd share with you my technique on how I use Procreate to do that. And obviously there are ways in Illustrator and Photoshop to do this, both of which I use quite regularly depending on what it is that I'm working on. And if it's just for fun, if it's for a project, whatever. But this one is a method that I've kind of been working on lately, as I have my iPad with me most places. It's just quick and easy to pull out and work on anything, and I just love just creating the full process on one device, rather than, because I used to create like the most part of it, especially the digital colouring part of my pattern designs on the iPad, and then I would transfer the pattern at this stage, which is the first stage of the pattern, to Photoshop, and then after that I would then create the full design in Photoshop from this initial point on Procreate. And I just find it so much more fun to do the whole thing on Procreate. And I'm not going to say that this is an exact way of doing it that will replace the really good tools that Photoshop and Illustrator have built in, especially when filling the pattern and automatically aligning it all to any surface area. This is just a way to create a tile that you can repeat quickly and easily on one device. So I'm going to stop babbling now and I'm going to show you how I turned this tile on Procreate into this full pattern design, which I then used on this little notebook and other designs, and most randomly of all, a billboard at the minute. So yeah, I have used this tile to fill a lot of surface areas, a lot of them very big surface areas, so it is a good method of doing it. So yes, I did say let's dive into it, but let's actually do it this time. Okay. So what you're first going to start with is a tile, and I like to work with a square tile. So this one is 210 by 210 millimeters. This is what I like to start with first. An exact square tile I find is easiest to work with, especially when it comes to the next step of dividing this up into the corners, so to ensure that it repeats. Okay, so we have our tile, we have our illustration. This one is made up of lots of different drawings, all of which are drawn by hand and then coloured digitally on Procreate. So I have this initial drawing set up, and the key to this stage is to ensure that you get the design as close to the edge of the canvas as possible without cutting anything off. If you look closely, you can see it's running right up to the edge, but it's not actually being cut off anywhere. Everything in this part of the design has to fit within the canvas. That's really, really important, otherwise the whole thing just won't work. It all has to be within this one square. And at this stage you can see I haven't added a background or anything, it's on a white background for now. And what I did after this stage is go back to my gallery, selected it, duplicated it, as I don't want to flatten the original design in case we ever want to go back and edit this. I never flatten any of my designs that are layered designs. I always create a duplicate, and then I will go in and I'll select all of these layers that we've created. I'll group them all. You can see they're all in that one group there, and then I'll flatten that, and then this is the design that we're going to work with. And we're going to use this flattened design to create the first part of our tile, like so. As you can see, it's been divided up into all four corners of the canvas, which will, if you were to just leave it as this, would repeat as many times as you want with that initial design. But obviously that's going to look weird. It's going to look like it's got a grid running through the middle of it everywhere. So I'm getting ahead of myself. we'll cover this part first. I'll show you how I divide it up, and it's important to be as accurate as you can at this stage, as it's not a definite accurate way like Photoshop would be to create this pattern, because it's done by the computer. Obviously we're gonna do it manually ourselves, and you can make it perfect, you just gotta be accurate with it. So I'm going to duplicate this flattened image 4 times. I'm going to hide the last 3 and keep the first one shown. I'm going to go to my canvas up in the tools up there, and I'm going to turn on the drawing guide, and as you can see I've just shown a grid here. To get this, if that's not your automatic grid that appears, it's just the 2D grid in this bottom section here, and it doesn't really matter what size it's set at. It could be bigger, maybe that'll be easier. Just try and get it so that the edge of the grid meets the edge of the canvas, if that makes sense. Can you see here? Just try and get it so that it fits right on the edge, like so. And this is just going to help you keep everything accurate and make sure we're lining up everything correctly. Then press done. Okay, so with this first one, we're going to press the arrow to move it, and you want to make sure that it's on uniform and snapping and magnetics is on. Again, this is just to make sure that everything is as accurate as it can be. As you can see, this then snaps it to the grid a lot easier. So there's less way that there would be an error when placing it. Okay, so this is the part where we're going to try and get this design into the corners. So you need a corner of the design to be in the top right, the top left, and then the bottoms to be down there as well. So I'll just walk you through each stage. It sounds more complicated than it actually is. Okay, so we're going to move it now so that the bottom left of this flat tile design is up in the top right, like so. And you want to work out where the center is, so that's where this grid comes in handy. So you can see the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 grids up here, squares even 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we know that's the center. And the same running vertically, horizontally as well. So you want to make sure that it's dead in the center, this corner up there. Okay, and once you're happy with that, just tap off, and you can keep that visible if you like. And we're going to show the next layer, move that again. So again, we're moving the bottom of this design up to the top corners, opposite top corners, like so. So this bottom right corner of the design moves up to the top left. And again, just snap it into that corner there. These orange lines that you can see appearing will help you ensure that it's in the center of the design. So you've got it lined up right there, as so. Show your next layer, and now we're working on the top of the design. Again, going to the opposite corners where it sits. So we want the top left corner to go to the bottom right. Line it up, and if you need to zoom in at any point, just pinching on the canvas there so you can zoom in, and then you can make sure that it's exactly right. Last one, show your last design, and then lastly we've got the top right corner moving to the bottom left. Just sometimes it's easier with the finger when just clicking things into place like this. Cool. That is the initial part of our pattern design there. And like I mentioned a little bit before when I got carried away with myself, if you were to leave it like this, the tile would repeat that initial design, but it would have a grid in between like so. And that's cool if that's the way you want it to look, but I'm all for the maximalist, covered everywhere pattern design. So let's move on to the next step. And the next step, it looks a bit far-fetched, but I'm going to break it down and show you exactly how I made this full tile. Okay, so let me hide all of the layers that I added on top and below all of this. There we go. So you can see that's the original towel we started with. Can you see they're both the same there? And all I have done is add in a bunch of things on top, like so, and a few things in these areas here, just working to hide that grid really. That's the main aim here. If I added another piece here, and that's the good thing of working on Procreate, is you already have all these drawings in here, I assume, or you can just go straight into this and draw more into it by hand as you go. I like to work with pieces sometimes, like this is the way I've done this one. These were all drawn beforehand. I've added some bits behind, like so, and then I added in another layer where I've added in these little details as well, just to fill in any extra blanks. The more you can add in within this blank area, the better, because that really does hide the fact that it is essentially a grid being repeated. And the more you can add in these center areas, the more it's hard to tell that it's being repeated, if that makes sense. So the key to doing this again is you don't want anything that you add to this step to touch the areas, the sides even, of the canvas. Everything has to stay within, because at this point this is what is going to be repeated in your pattern, and you don't want anything to be touching the edges because it will be cut off and it'll look really bizarre. So yeah, anything that you add at this point has to all be on the canvas, well within the area. So yeah, it's really just a case of just hiding that grid, like so. These are our pieces we added before, and that's everything extra. So once you're happy with that, you essentially have your pattern towel. And again, don't flatten this one. You want to keep that in case you want to edit it, but select it, duplicate it, and then flatten it so that you have your flat towel here. And then you can go in, if you want to fill like an area on Procreate with this, that's cool. I do that quite often as well. So you can go back and you can create, let's for example say an A4 portrait, and you can paste that layer we just copied from our pattern, like so. Move it to the top. I'm just going to fill the background so you can see a bit better. As you can see, we've got the first part, but we want to fill the whole area, don't we? So what you're going to do is duplicate it, select it, keep it on uniform and snapping, zoom out to move it down, zoom in a bit more so that you can make sure it's all lined up, like so, and it'll usually snap when it is in place, but it's always good to just eyeball it as well. Yeah, and that looks good. It's lined up. It's all repeating, and if again you want to go in and add anything else at this stage, feel free. But yeah, that's essentially how you create the tile on your Procreate, and you can go ahead and export this as a PSD, put it into Photoshop, and put it into your usual method of creating a pattern on there if you wish as well, or just to have it there as a backup or to create anything else in the future. Yeah, it's good to work on. These files work great on Photoshop as well, which is always handy. So yeah, I'd love to see if you use this technique to create a pattern and what you created with it. I always love to see what you create using any of my tutorials. You can share them with me here on YouTube, point me in the direction of where they are. I'd love to have a look. Or share them with me on Instagram at Felicity Ink. But yeah, I hope that was useful and you enjoyed it. And yeah, it's just a nice technique to know for when all you have on you is your iPad, or you just want to create a fun, quick pattern without getting all of your gadgets out. Yeah, but I'll be back with another tutorial soon, and I have my usual studio vlogs and other little bits and bobs here on YouTube, so go check out those videos. And if you haven't already, I'd love it if you could subscribe so you can see all the new videos I have coming up next. But thank you for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye!